Welcome back. Campo and Joe, happy to be with you. If it's on Facebook Live, appreciate you tuning in. If you're checking us out on 1010XL, any of our social channels, or catching us just by listening to one of our Campo and Joe podcasts, it's good to be back. Joe C. from XL Primetime, noon to 3 weekdays, and Coach Campo, a Super Bowl man just by himself, even if he didn't coach you down to football, but you did. You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You're a Super Bowl man.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a good man. Back from a wedding. You got to tell everybody what you were doing.
Well, it was a good weekend. My niece got married in just outside of Salt Lake, and I also had an opportunity to speak to one of my nephews. It's a coach of a high school in the area.
Right.
That was fun, and it's good to get away once in a while. And we only went for a couple of days.
Right.
But then I have another wedding this week of my granddaughter. We're going to Littleton, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
We're taking a little train up to Pikes Peak and doing some things to kind of see the territory. So I'm excited about that.
I like that. You're going to take a few pictures for us on that one.
Yes.
So we can take a look. Because
absolutely.
I've been to Colorado. Haven't been there in a long time, so I bet it'll be pretty neat. Well, that's good. All sorts of family things happening. Coach Campo's got a big family. We're a big family on 1010XL. Just coming back from the Hall of Fame game, which was it was awesome. Everything that you think of the Hall of Fame, like just the idea of the greatness that is just rolling through the hallways, rolling through Canton, Ohio. It really was that. Now, this was my first time, Coach.
Right.
But you've been up there a handful of times.
Yeah, I've been fortunate, to be around. One of the reasons that I've had such a good career is because I was around a lot of good football players.
That helps, right?
And, you got Troy, Emmett, Michael, Dion, Charles Haley, Jimmy, Jerry. I was there for all of those inductions. And then, of course, the Cowboys go way back, with Tom Landry and, and you could name Tony
Bob
Dorsett.
Lilly came through.
Bob Lilly, but I was there personally for those. And it's fun. It's fun to be around greatness. I think one of the things that I always felt in my career, Joe, was the more time I could spend around champions, the better chance I had to learn and go forward. So it's fun to do those things.
Yeah, I like what Coach just said there, and we probably could spend the next half hour talking about Hall of Fame, just stories and whatnot. But what you just said, before we get to some Jaguar talk with the game, it's hard to find greatness out there. You can find, I'm considered the average Joe. You can find average. You can find above average. I always say that greatness, rare is rare. It's hard to find those people. Did you ever think there was a certain ingredient that was in all those guys, the Aikmans, Irvins, Emmets, Dion's, a certain ingredient in each one of them?
Yeah, I believe strongly, number one, there's two things really, I think. Number one is passion. If you don't love what you're doing, there's a lot of ways to be a champion now. You can be a champion father. You can be a champion husband. You can be a champion in a lot of ways. But the passion of, how important it is to you was the number one thing. And the second thing was just believing that iron sharpens iron. Play against the best. And the competitiveness of the guys that I know that were in the Hall of Fame shows out, just the ability to compartmentalize. Of what I have to do to be the best I can be. And that's work ethic and just competitive spirit.
Yeah, it really is something. Now, I don't know how we're going to do this, Coach. We're going to segue from that greatness to that Hall of Fame game, which wasn't so great, but it's the beginning of what could be great. Take us back to Thursday night with the Hall of Fame game and try and tell me and Jaguar fans out there that are listening or watching to not panic.
Well, first of all, the reason not to panic is that there are only a certain number of those guys that are going to be playing on Sunday and even be part of the football team when the Jags get back to business. You heard me on one of the shows we did say that I got absolutely nothing out of the game. And what I meant by that was the game means nothing.
Okay.
It's individual performances, and especially when you're trying to build a program, the guys that were in there that, you feel that you're going to count on still Whether they're a top backup or whether they're young guys that are going to be in there, which a lot of them were the draft choices.
Right.
Those are the guys you look at and you see where they're at and the things that you have to work on and the things that you can see a light at the end of the tunnel on. And I think there were a number of those things in the ball game that stuck out, and that's what you get out of the ball game. I wouldn't take anything out of the win or the loss, or even the physicalness, because the Raiders obviously practiced more physically than the Jaguars did. But there's a lot of time between now and when that game starts.
True. Yeah, you and I think both of us were probably on the same page that they had a chance to have extra practices at the beginning of the football calendar. They could have started somewhere around the 26th. No, actually, I take that back. Somewhere around the 21st, and they didn't really get into shells or anything until the 26th. So we're talking about 4 or 5 days that they might have been able to take advantage of. The Raiders did take advantage of that. Let's at least compliment them.
Yeah, I think you have to look at that as if you're, studying the teams and saying, what did that game mean? I was a little surprised, actually, that the Jags didn't start earlier, because they could have got some of the non-pad practices done and gotten a few more pad days. But again, it goes back to the philosophy of the head coach. The head coach has got a process, kind of like the end of training or OTAs when he gave them a few days off. A lot of it is based on what your process is and what you think is important. And again, there's a ton of time between now and that first game on September 11th.
Yeah.
So, you're hopeful that they're going to have plenty of opportunities to hit.
Okay, so let's at least hit a few things that did come out of this game the other night. There were a few guys that I was rooting for. Slick Willie Johnson, I call him. He had a big return, had a couple of big plays. One of them was called back on a penalty. It was like an 88-yard gain. Jeff Cotton, another one of my guys, had a big play, called back on a penalty. But more than anything, there weren't a lot of penalties in this ball game, by and large, which I actually think is a good sign for the first time we're getting to see them.
Well, the first most important thing is that you look like a football team,
yes.
And I felt that they looked like a football team. I mean, they didn't have a lot of false starts. Pre-snap penalties are the ones that kill you.
Right.
It's like if you're trying to put a budget together and you say, oh well, that's only $5. Well, all those $5 add up to a lot of dollars. And it's the same thing with the pre-snap penalties. If you have a lot of those, you always want to stay ahead of the chains, whatever it is. And if you're starting with 1st and 15, or you get 7 and then all of a sudden you get an offside penalty and it goes back to unmanageable.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of those. There wasn't a punt team run out there without the punter on there, like last year.
Exactly.
Those kind of things didn't show up. And there were a couple of, the first pass interference penalty roughing the passer penalty on Walker was ridiculous. Yeah. So he'll learn to not throw the guy down, when he's got him. But a couple of holding penalties, one on a kickoff. I was surprised that there weren't more penalties in the return game because that's where you get a bunch of them. So I think that there were a lot of positive things along those lines, and I think they can go forward with that.
All right, stay on the number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker, because he tried to cradle Jarrett Stidham on the actual sack because he didn't want to get another flag. But just what you thought of him?
I was really pleased with him. I think he's going to be a really good player, and again, we talk about how many sacks he's going to get and all that. I don't know. But I know that, number one, they can't run on him. I know that for sure. And he is a beast when he goes up inside with something, whether it's a stunt or whether they line him up in there. There's no question. The thing I wanted to see was how he came around the corner.
Right.
And I think really what he is a speed to power guy right now because he doesn't have all of the intricate hand movements and that type of thing that, that you can create some stuff. He's going to learn to come off the ball even better than he did. But seeing him come up and power the guy and then come underneath him and make a sack, those are the kind of things that not everybody can do. With his long arms, he's going to, in my opinion, going to be a very good pass rusher. And again, I watched him in practice yesterday. They had him on the left side some. And in my thinking, as I look at that, I say that's great because Josh Allen can be an outstanding pressure guy off the edge. Not as good a run defender.
Okay.
Well, most offensive teams are right-handed. So when I saw him go over to the left side, I don't know if he's Walker. I don't know if he's going to stay there. But in my thinking, they're saying, hey, not only can he rush the passer over there against the not as good offensive tackle, but he can play the run over there. And so to me, that might be something that they're looking at, or they might just be working him at both positions to just get him ready.
Yeah, and I think that would be good if they're interchangeable.
I think if they're doing that, they're thinking and they're putting, from a coaching staff standpoint, they're trying to put the guy in the best position to help the football team. And that, to me, is what's the most important.
Yeah, and I do feel like what you're saying as far as a more accomplished, quick, seasoned left tackle versus maybe a bigger, bulkier right tackle, who do you have a better chance to get around?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I think, Josh Allen, when you watch the two of them, just to make a comparison, Josh Allen has really quick movements. And, when you've got a left tackle that's a really good offensive player, that quick movement stuff has a chance to work.
Right.
When you got a right tackle that's more a power guy, when you watch Trayvon, he's about getting off that football, athletic ability, and ability to power to get himself in position to make some moves. That's where, he may be the better right tackle or left tackle defensively than left end.
Yeah, going against that right
going
tackle.
a right tackle than the other way around.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Mike Caldwell learns about his football team. You're a former defensive coordinator, former head coach, but I would think you go through periods of time where you learn a little bit. Like, okay, I'm not going to keep beating my head against the wall. I'm going to move this guy over here.
That's what preseason is about, especially in pads.
Yeah.
When you get an opportunity to see a guy in pads, you see his strengths and weaknesses, and the good coordinators put guys in position to do it. And believe me, I'm not blowing my own horn here, but we had really fast linebackers in Dallas. So we were a 4-3 team, and we really let those guys run.
Right.
We ended up with Robert Jones, who was really a good linebacker. Once, we got into it a little farther, we went to more of a 3-4 look because he was not a guy that could run sideline to sideline.
Okay.
So we went to more of a 3-4 package where he was having to play guards one-on-one and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's what you have to do. You find out what the guy's strengths and weaknesses are, and you put them to their strengths. Yeah. That's the key from the coaching standpoint.
Pretty simple. Let's get into at least a few guys, and we'll talk mainly rookies here as far as what you liked, what might concern you a little bit. We're going to hit, well, let's go to the offense first. Luke Fortner is a guy that is being pushed into a starter's role. Pushed is not the right word. He's being put in a great position to be a starter right away. What'd you think?
I like him. Again, in my opinion, his strength is his athletic ability and his smarts. The one thing he showed in the game, especially, was getting to the second level, being able to come off a combo block where the inside guard is getting on the guy. You give him a little bit of help and then get up to the linebackers.
Right.
That's where he showed in the game, no question. That was the best part of his game. The other thing that showed a little bit is that his athletic set allows him to pick up blitzers and crossers and be able to bounce out to help other guys. That's his strength because he's smart.
Yeah.
And listening to the guys talk after the ball game, they were really complimenting his communication, and that from the center standpoint is important. That's the brain power. Yeah. The one negative I saw a little bit was because he deep sets a little bit, he got powered a couple times. Okay. And that's something that he will get better at. He has to, he has to get himself into a good, it's not just getting back and looking around. You got to be in a good position to handle something if it comes in there on you. And some of those big linemen in the league are going to power him at times.
There were one-on-one drills going back last week. Let's just call this maybe Monday or Tuesday. and he got stood up a couple of times, and he didn't have a long enough cleat, and he just started sliding back like a sled.
Right.
So that
those are things he's going to have to work on, and the more time that they spend in pads, which, Monday of this week, I saw a little bit more yesterday, of them in pads and one-on-one, and I think he made a little bit of improvement in that on that day.
Yeah, that's all you're looking for. And I'll ask you this 1,000 times. Does it need to be market improvement? Does it need to be measurable improvement? Well, it's different situations, right? Different guys are going to be asked to do different things. What about a couple of other young players that caught your eye in a positive way?
Well, first of all, Walker Little,
Okay, there you go, second-year guy.
Yeah, I think, he's going to come into his own. He's got a chance to come into his own. He's really a good athlete. When you're talking strengths and weaknesses on him, I think he's going to be a really good pass blocker. I think he's very good on the backside of the zone scheme.
Okay.
The zone scheme is where everybody's reaching and the back has an opportunity to go lateral and then find a hole, and it's not around the end all the time. It's cutbacks. It's, where you're hitting that hole. Well, the backside blocking is extremely important, whether you cut a guy or cut him off to open up that area where that back can cut. That's his strength. I don't think he's quite as strong in the power game, just the run at. So that's going to be something that he has to work on.
Okay.
And I think probably Jawan Taylor is probably stronger in that area than he is on the other areas, where he has to move his feet. That's when Jawan gets his holding penalties. So that, to me, that's why Walker Little has a chance to win that job, and that's going to be interesting to see going forward. It's
a good point, because one guy does one thing well, the other guy does the other thing well. You need both of them to kind of come together. Is there more potential for Walker Little to become a better run blocker as opposed to Jawan fixing his pass pro?
Yeah, I think the combination of the zone blocks and the power blocks, he's already got one of them in my opinion. So now he just has to work on, getting good position and those kind of things. And I think that'll come with, more playing time.
All right. So the line, at least as we're looking at it right now, I think Walker Little has that job. I don't think there's any question. I think you're pretty much in the same camp,
I feel that way.
He's got that job. And then you've got Brandon Sheriff, who didn't play. We don't need to see him play. We might see him Friday. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. And then you've got Luke Fortner. Bring it on. Give me as many reps as I can possibly get. Shatley, left guard, and then Cam. And we're going to see those guys coming up this week.
Absolutely. And I've really been impressed with Cam more than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
I didn't know. He is actually performing pretty darn well in practice. Now, again, it's in practice, but I think you have to kind of look at the guys he's going against. You put, Allen and Walker and Arden Key and Smoot. Those are decent pass rushers,
right?
And he's held his own against those guys, all those guys. So I'm happy with that. Watching Barch, for example, I think he's going to be a backup. I think Shatley will start at guard. I really do. But they may go with a young guy too, because he has shown some good things. But I think Shatley's the guy over there.
I'm with you. I just feel like he is better. He is more experienced. They do need depth, so there's nothing wrong with developing depth. But Shatley is a grown man. Even though Barch is a big dude, Shatley has been in those trenches and has been successful.
Right.
And I do think that's probably where they'll end up going. Defensive side of the ball, Chad Muma. Start with him, and then maybe we'll hit a couple of other guys.
Well, the thing that I was happiest about was that he played he played the whole half. And he's one, obviously, that I wanted to see, along with Quarterman. Because, those backup guys are going to be guys that they're going to have to count on. I liked what I saw from the standpoint of his ability, his athletic ability, and his discipline. With all of the inside run plays, he fit very well in his gaps.
That means he's assignment smart.
Right. And he ran to the sideline pretty well. So those two things I liked. Now, did he make some mistakes? Absolutely. He made the biggest mistake was he set too deep on one of the screens, didn't get back in to play it, and it was a big play. Those are things that he's going to have to work on. But one of the things you look for is a big drop between guys that can run with your first unit, and all of a sudden you come in, somebody gets hurt, and you bring in a guy that can't run.
Right.
That doesn't fit the defense. And I think Muma fits the defense. Whether or not, in what role he'll play, I think he'll be a very good special teams player. I think he showed enough to me that he can handle being a backup guy and run to the football. Yeah. And he's probably a pretty good special teams guy.
Yeah, I think Jag fans like hearing that. The screen game you mentioned, though, that was bad.
Yeah.
They have got to figure out a way. This is a brand new defensive coordinator in Mike Caldwell. There are a lot of new faces, but that is an old problem, Coach.
Yes.
It goes back. See, Coach was under Jack Del Rio here, and you guys were pretty good against the screen. Yeah. They haven't been good against the screen for a while.
Well, and it's funny because, Bob Sutton, who's the defensive assistant,
right,
has actually called me and asked me what I thought of what I'm seeing.
Right.
And one of the things I talked to him about the other day, yesterday, I said, Bob, I'm not trying to coach the football team, but I talked to him about a drill that we used to use for the screen, and he thought it was pretty darn good. So they may implement it. Really playing a screen is just like playing a running play. You've heard me say that before.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be, no matter what the coverage is, there's got to be a contained man, and then there's got to be a fitter, a guy that's got to get between that contained man and the next blocker inside.
Right.
And that was missing a couple times on the screen, and it was a lot last year.
Gosh, yeah.
The third thing is, though, you have to have linemen reacting from inside out, because what you want to do is you want to turn that screen back inside. And so there wasn't a lot of retrace from the linemen in the ball game the other night.
There was nobody out there.
Yeah, they were rushing the passer with such fervent attempts that they didn't react to the screen. And that's, you got to work it. Yeah. So we used to do a screen drill almost every day in OTAs and training camp,
right,
because it's something that's different. I always broke things down into the things that are different that you have to handle that could be big plays. The bootlegs. You have to know how to play a bootleg.
Right.
You have to know that there's a double layer there. There's a layer of a guy in the flat and a guy intermediate behind it. So the guys underneath have to know that. They can't just jump on the guy in the flat.
Right.
They've got to know there's a guy behind them. What we called Chinas, which were delays, where the receiver would come out and stop at 5 yards, and then there would be a corner route behind it. Those are the things, you're trying to control those underneath guys with that guy up front. You have to be in a position to handle both of them.
Right.
And the third one, obviously one of them would be the screen.
Yeah.
And the fourth one would be the reverse, and those are things that you have to work on every day, because they're things that can be big plays on you that you don't see all the time. It's not like playing a running play that you're going to see, a power play that you're going to see 50 times in practice.
Right. But that reverse and that jet sweep is now being brought back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to account for those guys.
You have to work on those in practice, and there's something that you have to put an emphasis on every day.
All right. You mentioned second-year guy Walker Little, so let's mention another second-year guy in Trey Cisco, who you like, and you like what you see, be it game situation or practice.
Yeah. I like him, first of all, because when I went to one of the practices in OTA, he knew who I was. He came over and shook my hand.
That's cool.
Number one, I was a Syracuse coach, but he's a little bit of a history guy, obviously.
Like have a little
I
sense.
like that from a mental standpoint.
Yeah.
That was the Dak Prescott thing when I was in Dallas. He's a history guy. He loves the game. He knows a lot about it. But the one thing he can do from a physical standpoint is he's an outstanding tackler in the open field, and that showed in the game. He made a really good open field tackle. And that's something I think was missing a little bit with the safeties a year ago.
Right.
He brings that to the table, but he also brings, you have 13, he had 13 interceptions.
Oh, he was
at Syracuse.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bunch of plays now. That's a big number.
Yeah.
He has instincts. He's showing it. He can go sideline to sideline, so he's going to be a good middle safety and a half cover safety. but we've seen him come up and make some plays in the box, play a little man-to-man, which they could not do a year ago. So he brings a lot of versatility to the game, and he's smart. So to me, when you look at all those guys, he is the key, in my opinion, not just because of what he can do, but he's the different guy.
Yeah.
He's the one thing they didn't have last year. There's nobody else. They're all the same guys other than him.
Yeah, it's true.
So he's going to be a key, in my opinion, and I like what I see from this point.
Yeah, I think they're gonna try and find out who those backup safeties are. They're gonna have to be special teams guys, but he needs to be a sergeant at that safety position, in control, making sure that he's man in the back portion of this defense. All right, we need to look at Friday's game. We only got a couple minutes left. Trevor Lawrence, the rest of the starters, they could be seeing Deshaun Watson Friday night in the Browns, because I think Cleveland's going to play Deshaun Watson as much as they can just to try and get social media all cranked up coming out against the NFL. I think that's what's going to happen. How many starters do you think the Jaguars will play Friday night?
Well, I think they'll play all of them that
For how long?
are not coming out of an injury,
Right.
Or a little banged up or whatever from practice or whatever. I think they'll play them. Remember, they've got 4 games. Okay, so you look at the first game and you say, okay, we're not going to play any of the starters. We're going to take a look at these young guys and see what they can do. The second game now is where you get the first group cranked up a little bit.
Okay.
Get them some time, give them an opportunity to get a feel for each other in a game situation, which is different than practice. So I think you'll see 2 or 3 series. They may be on a pitch count.
Okay.
I don't know numbers of plays,
Right.
But depending upon how the series go, if you don't want to see 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
Coach,
if you see that, they'll keep playing. In my opinion, that's not enough.
They only ran 22 plays in the first half.
Right. So you want to see them a number of times. So they're going to play. Then the third game, you crank them up for a half. And then the fourth game, you don't play them. Well, you got to remember that Cleveland only has 3 games. So the first game they're going to get their firsts out there for a number of plays. And so the good thing about the game is going to be the first look at our firsts against their firsts. And, that in itself will be good, even if it's not 100% great. It's the first against the first, and you get an idea of things that you need to improve on, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And they may play Deshaun Watson just because he's going to be their first-line quarterback eventually during the course of the year if they don't change to a year's suspension.
Yeah, exactly.
So both quarterbacks, will play for them a good amount of time, I think, in this game.
And I'm thinking if Trevor's out there, you need as many pieces that he's going to rely on to be a good quarterback. You need to have them out there too.
No, especially the front.
Yeah.
They got to protect him. They're not going to have him out there without the frontline guys playing. So you're going to see the firsts out there a good number of times. I'm excited to see some of the receivers and how they operate with Trevor. I think Cleveland has a pretty good defense. I think a better defense than their offense. So it'll be interesting to see there. Although Cleveland's offense running the ball is going to be a little bit of a test. I think we're going to see a good picture of that as well.
After watching Josh Jacobs gash them, I hope it's not Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and whomever else. And heck, Kareem Hunt wants out of town, so maybe they'll hand him the ball a bunch.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I think they are as well. And, it's a process. It's incremental improvement from day to day and game to game. And we still have a lot of time before that first ball game. So, I think that you're going to get a little bit of a look at them this Friday.
Great stuff, Coach. As always appreciate it. Now, you're going to have a trip, and then we'll be back. Once we review the game, we'll kick out another Campo and Joe.
Looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to watching this ball game. I'm going to have to record it because I won't see it live.
Yeah, but you'll be up at Pikes Peak.
I'll be up at Pikes Peak, but as soon as I get home, I'll be in front of the TV watching the replay.
Okay, sounds good. Coach Dave Campo, always appreciate your time. Joe C. from XL Primetime, thanks for watching Campo and Joe or listening to us wherever you pick up your podcast. Have a great week.